My name is Damali Ssali and I welcome you to this episode of the Ideation Corner. The Ideation Corner is a space where ideas are discussed and dissected. And today I host Abu Musuuza, who is the co-founder and CEO of Flip Africa, and he's going to tell us all about it. Abu, you're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me. It's such an honor.
Thank you.
To be here.
So tell us about Flip Africa.
Well, Flip Africa is a digital freelance marketplace that is connecting young, skilled, Ugandan first, but our ambition is Africa. So young and skilled people to the about $80 billion a year African gig economy. And in fact, in some spaces, they estimate that it's 2 times that.
Double that.
$800 billion a year. So we are connecting young people to that. And our work primarily centers really on this wrong definition of employed versus unemployed and what we define as employment. And we basically have decided that anyone who doesn't have an 8-to-5 job, is defined as unemployed. Is unemployed.
If you don't go to the office.
If you don't go to the office, if you don't, have that steady job, it's actually if you think about it, very archaic way of defining what, because now that I'm listening to myself, I can hear my mom, and my dad.
You don't have a real job.
You don't have a real job, you don't go to the office. But the implication of being defined as unemployed, is really what hurts. That, suddenly you don't have access to all these things that basically give you a more stable life, things that allow you to begin to explore higher ideas, right? Because if you're constantly thinking about your hospital bill, you're constantly thinking about, your cash flow, money, you're not growing, then you really cannot start thinking about, this whole big idea of growth, and investing in things like, so certain investments, are just not in the realm of a lot of young people. Yet, this 85% that we define as unemployed are actually driving this economy. There's a lot of transactions that are happening.
They're still doing things.
Yeah, they're in the freelance, space.
They're hustling.
The gigs, they're hustling every day. It's the accountant, who is providing accounting services to individuals and very tiny businesses. It's the graphic designer, and many other people who are doing sales work, who are doing social media, relations.
I know that nowadays a lot of young people actually handle the accounts of big corporate companies online.
Yeah.
They're the ones with the passwords. They're the ones who are posting stuff.
And so, that wrong definition that they're, unemployed completely, has condemned this group of young people who number about 9 million in Uganda alone and about 200 million across Africa. And it wipes away their identity, because, we define, a lot of our identities defined around the work that we do. You're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're,
and even their social standing, because I know a lot of people find you like, so do you have a job? And as long as you don't say, yes, I work for this company, then they think you're not serious.
Yeah, what do you do? And, certainly you can't define that. So we basically try and help them reclaim, this professional identity. We help them, do something that is not done now for the gig economy, which is data, right? So there's no data on these transactions that are happening. And, they're quite a significant number. And because you don't have the data, you therefore, the traditional businesses, that are insurance and banking, and all these other services don't want to look at you. You are such an expensive acquisition to them.
Okay, you're high risk.
You're very high risk. And it's actually quite funny that the definition of high risk is really ultimately data.
Yeah, by the way, right? It is. Because
if you don't have that string of data that says every month you're making 700,000 a month, and if you don't have someone that says, they're fully employed and I back them and they'll be here
for the next
2 years, then you're high risk. It's not something that you're doing particularly. It's not like you're jumping off a cliff or something. It's that absence of data that has condemned them to being high risk, and therefore. And so what Flip does is, one, create this predictability around finding work in the gig economy, right? So we basically go out there looking for everyone who's looking for someone to do a specific task that could run anywhere from 1 hour to 6 months.
Okay.
Right?
So let me understand this. If I am Damali and I wanted a graphic designer, I can go onto Flip
Yeah.
and put in my request.
Yes. So you go onto Flip. The first thing that we ask you to do is to create a profile on the Flip platform. You as Damali, right?
Okay.
And even if you have a business, right?
The
Even if, for
business can
example, the Ideation Corner
Corner.
wanted to hire someone, right? A video editor, for whatever reason, one of your editors has fallen ill and you need a quick replacement. Damali has to create a profile. Then Damali creates a company under her profile, which is the Ideation Corner.
Oh,
and then
it
through
starts with the
ideation,
person.
yes, it starts with the person.
You will
that
not
level of
register
accountability.
Ideation Corner.
We can't register Ideation Corner.
Because there are always people behind
There
it.
is someone behind Ideation Corner. We want to know that person.
Who them? Okay.
And then that person is the one that creates a profile
For the Ideation
Corner and then hires through that profile.
Okay.
So when you do that, then you basically, there's a very easy to fill, a lot of clicks, mostly clicks, and then a bit of description on the person that you're looking for. And we particularly ask you to tell us 3 to 5 key deliverables that if they're done, you consider the job completed.
Okay.
Right. And then we ask you location of that job. We ask you how much you're willing to pay for that job and how long you expect that work to be delivered. Right.
Okay.
Is it 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? And then in the back end, we basically go through the process of approving, and making sure that an approval is really that you're communicating clearly.
Okay.
But before that job gets posted or goes live, that 300,000 that you said you were willing to pay for that job has to go onto the Flip's escrow account.
Okay. So I have to pay it.
You have to.
to pay it into the escrow.
You have to pay it into the escrow. Now that doesn't mean that you've paid the freelancer before they've done the work. It's only that we have secured that money. And the reason we do that is we learned that there's a lot of economic exploitation that happens in the gig economy because it's largely invisible.
Yes.
And so we basically collect that money ahead of time and that money is only paid out after the job has been delivered to your satisfaction. Meaning that someone could deliver the job but only has done 4 of the 5
things I wanted. Okay.
So then we go back and say, hey, you need to complete this. Once that is completed, then the transaction goes through. The other really cool thing is that, on the other side, young people are creating profiles as well, right? That I am a professional accountant,
or I'm a video editor.
I'm a video editor, for example, for this example. And so once the job goes live, the platform alerts all the video editors.
Okay.
Right? That, hey, Ideation Corner is looking for a video editor for 1 week and they're paying 300,000, to do the job. But the platform also alerts Damali
that we have 5 video editors.
Here are 5 video editors. And it's the importance of creating a profile because all of those profiles of video editors pin themselves on that profile, for Damali. And that way we very quickly and very easily and very seamlessly connect these 2 worlds that currently rely on word of mouth.
Yeah, I know a guy. Do you know a guy who can do this video editing
process? Yes. And which we have found is the worst way to find someone. How many times and even if someone has done a good job for me in the past, doesn't mean they're going to do a good job for you, right? Because there's no really, qualitative or quantitative way for capturing that value, right?
Yeah.
And so what Flip does is when the job is complete, is you have to rate that video editor that did a job for you. Right.
Did they do a good job? Did they deliver the things on time?
And 4 key things, right? 1, the quality of work that they delivered. 2 is the professionalism with which they delivered that work. 3 is their level of integrity, when they were doing that work. And 4 is timeliness. Were they on time? Did they deliver work on time? If there were meetings in between, did they show up on time? And then this acts as an intelligence system that when another person is looking for a video editor, they have access to that information and that data. And therefore the system helps hiring entities, individuals and businesses that are looking to hire people on short-term contracts. It helps them identify the right person really quickly. So then we move away from, do you know a guy, to 70 people who tell you this is the right guy. And there's data that you can look through, and you basically make the decisions. But that video editor is going to rate Ideation Corner as well.
Okay, good. It's a two-way rating. I rate them, they rate me.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, because a lot of workplaces can tend not to be safe for people to work, right?
Especially women.
Especially women, right? So we basically want people to know that transparency is important. That I worked at Ideation Corner, they're amazing, they kept time, they paid fairly, they provided a great work experience, and so I recommend that, that you go there. But if you did not, then you tend to find that people are like, I don't want to work with Ideation Corner, and then we basically
face sexual exploitation.
Yes,
that's the normal thing.
That's a big thing. That's a really big thing, and so we want everyone to know and be transparent, and then in the process create safer workplaces for freelancers.
Okay, so this video editor, what if they have less good ratings than the other video editor? Does the other video editor go up fast?
So the system has been intelligently built to help you get the best possible hire. Right? So as the system identifies the video editors for you, it actually filters them as well.
Okay,
it sort of like
the guy who goes on top is the one
is
the best.
Is the best.
Okay.
But you also get situations where the best is sought after so much.
They're so busy.
Right? They're so busy.
Yes.
So you basically have the option of hiring. And as we continue to build the platform, we'll basically be able to allow you to see how engaged they are.
Okay.
Right? So you may want your video edited this week, but the person
the best guy
is not available this week.
Okay.
So then it's more often than not the second best person has the same ratings.
Okay, as the other.
But the other person probably has done a lot more work than this person. So that's how the system intelligent. But we're also very keen not to build a system that excludes. Right. Yeah. That yes, you've made mistakes before. I arrived late. My work wasn't up to speed, or
you don't delete my profile because of that.
Yes, and then you tend to be going, further and further and further away. So what we'll do in the future is to actually build, workplace readiness trainings to help you and be able to identify that, hey,
you have a weakness
constantly
here.
been rated,
as
badly
timely.
around time, about being timely. So here are courses that you really need to do to help you
in that aspect.
lift your ratings. Right. So we're not building a system that is like, okay,
just
you're bad,
you're out, you're bad, you're gone.
But we're building a more inclusive platform.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I like that you are also trying to look at when we were preparing to come here. You mentioned the fact that you're very deliberate about ensuring that your system targets women, or that it doesn't. It's not built in a way that the things are so difficult, and therefore it's maybe majority men.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Yeah. It's actually something that we set ourselves, even before we wrote the first line of code or, set up anything, even before we started testing manually, we were very deliberate about the fact that we cannot build a system that, will end up being 70%, men and 30%, whether that is the number of people who are signing up or the number of jobs that we've completed. And so, when we're designing, we're looking specifically about, how do we encourage, women to come on the platform? And how do we pick up those women that are successful and use them to basically bring, other women on the platform? And then there's this interesting thing called algorithm bias. Right?
Yes.
That the person who's building an algorithm has a bias.
Yeah.
Right?
Inherent.
And if you're not aware of that bias will show up.
In the algorithm.
And there's actually a very fascinating lady somewhere in Europe who's basically focusing on this as a social change project. How do we address algorithm bias? So we're happy to report that.
How did you guys deal with that? Because you're a guy. How is your development team?
Well, you have to, first of all, the people behind the idea you have to involve women, and so the first person, that I spoke to when I was talking through Flip, as a potential social enterprise or, or business that I was building, is my co-founder now, Neha Pandya, who's a woman. So the first two brains that worked on this idea, were balanced, right? We made sure of that. But even the developers that we spoke to, we made this very clear that we cannot build a system that basically favors one side and not the other. And so when we built a platform, we've built a platform that focuses more on someone's ability rather than the agenda, right? And so what we've had now is that in the 200 contracts that we've completed, about 51% is actually women.
It's women,
that have basically earned this money, completed these contracts, got amazing ratings. So that's something that we're really, really proud of.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad. I was recently, I'm a bit involved in the fintech space. No, I'm not a techie person.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit involved. And one of I remember I gave a keynote speech on was it Digital Impact Awards or something to do with fintech. And I was to speak, I spoke about this inherent bias of tech developers. Mostly are men, and less than 10 or 5% of them are actually women. And as long as you're coding, you have coders who are not women, the biases then are inherently built into. It's not it's not deliberate. It's just inherent. You don't know you're biased if you don't know you're biased. So I like the fact that you from the get go you were deliberate about this. Like you knew, that's a potential risk. I'm going to deal with it from the get go, from even the thinking. Making sure that it's women. So tell me a little bit more about how, because when we were preparing for this, you mentioned how there are some women who are highly competent and then you get pregnant, you can't go back to work, but you're this lawyer, you have all these years of experience, but somehow you get out of the workspace and then all that knowledge is never utilized. How can they utilize your system?
I think actually the Flip platform is such a huge opportunity for women, particularly. I think that I wouldn't say tragedy because being a mom is such it's such a thing. It's an amazing privilege, but it also comes with a high level of responsibility. Essentially, it impacts a lot on the work that women have done in the past, and many of them have built amazing careers, right? And childbirth has a way of pulling them away from that, and demanding a lot of their time. And typically, from my experience, about 2 years, and not my experience at all, but my wife, my wife,
you give birth.
my wife who is a professional athlete, and seeing that she's actually has had to take off 2 years, to raise the little one. There's just so much I can do as a man, right? So I think the world of work needs to somewhat bend towards this, right? Why? Because there's an amazing resource, experience, talent that has become latent for those 2 years. And actually the difficulty of now getting back in after those 2 years, right? There's still serious, hurdles.
Hurdles,
if you even find that your opportunity is still there, right? So I think it needs to bend towards that. And I think the Flip platform is an amazing space where a lot of businesses and individuals need, the accountants, the lawyers, and all these other professionals who can provide that time, on
freelance.
on a freelance basis, on a short-term contract basis, and even on a remote basis. And that means that, it still allows mothers who are taking care of their children to be at home and still be productive and still help drive this economy in a sense. And I think as we continue to build, there will be more and more tools that will allow mothers to basically continuously be productive, even in this time.
Yeah, and I like that, the way COVID has shown us that actually there's so much work that can be done without you being physically in the office at all, especially the knowledge economy. You can do, I am an accountant and I can do someone's bookkeeping without me sitting in their office whatsoever. And I can do it, at midnight if that's what's convenient for me. Maybe my kid was very busy during the day and at midnight is the time I have, but I can still deliver the work. My brain is being used. I earn a living. They get their books done. And my kid still has me.
You still,
So I feel like it gives that flexibility, but also COVID I hope has opened more people's eyes to the idea of remote work.
COVID has had this interesting way of accelerating, this whole future of work thing, right? Because there were conversations around the future of work. How is work going to change? Do we need to? And there were many companies that had started rolling back, and if you remember, I think banks had started having this conversation about agency banking, right?
Yes.
And how do we reduce the traffic
from
and
coming to our
physically,
branches.
that's a form of of remote work that instead of you coming to the bank to deposit 700,000, go to an agent
near you
and do that. And so those conversations had started happening, right? There were businesses around the world that completely didn't have any offices, right? And everyone is remote, right? And there were experiments happening, and then COVID happened, and everyone was accelerated, right? And I think as we go forward, there are some permanent things about this whole setup because businesses have now realized that, you know what, people don't need to be here to deliver a high quality of work, and neither do we have to have, this huge, payroll, right? In order to deliver what our promises to our customers, we can still rely on freelance people. Now, a lot of people are going to tell me that, okay, as businesses lay off people, right, you're going to have a lot more unemployed people. In our experience, actually, on the Flip platform, we know that freelancers make more money than people who are seated,
in the office.
Really? And that's because the value of your labor tends to go higher if you charge per day, per week, per month, right? And so we've seen, companies are willing to say, you know what, instead of paying an accountant, 1.5 million shillings a month, I can hire a freelancer to work for 1 week and organize my books, and I pay them 300,000. Now, if that freelancer finds 5 people in a month,
to pay them that money,
1.5.
Wow.
But it's still, and many freelancers can
do that.
And that is dependent on the amount of work, right? So we know that by opening up more work opportunities to freelancers and allowing them to have clients, because that's now, we're moving away from the employer
now
to clients, because you have clients, you have to make sure that they're happy and the work is delivered. We've tended to see that they're making,
actually, on average, they'll make more than
on average. Our
person.
platform, our average on the platform is $210 a month, which is somewhere around 700 and something, right? And you begin now at 700,000. You begin to cross, you're like in the 50%, 30% percentage quartile of earners.
Because on average, how much?
The average, what research shows us is that the average median earning per month in urban areas in Uganda is 206,000.
206,000.
But on average on our platform, we're making 3 times that, more than 3 times that. So, and these are freelancers.
That's clear. And these are freelancers. Who people will consider unemployed.
We call them unemployed.
Yes.
And because we call them unemployed and they're still making 700, some are making 1 million shillings a month, we still can't provide them insurance. We still can't provide them credit.
The insurance companies will still not provide them.
This is why I said it's a data thing.
Yeah.
And that's what Flip also does.
Okay.
That every job that you do, no matter how small,
and you say that it's paid through the system.
It's paid through the system.
So I, Damali Ssali, if I was on your platform delivering my accounting services, because I'm an accountant, I would be able to, over the last 1 year, you would have data to show how much money I'm earning.
Yes. And so when you open that profile, it comes with an e-wallet, and you're paid through that e-wallet. Now that e-wallet, because it's digital, it's constantly recording the date you are paid each amount. But it can also aggregate for you. In the last month, in the last week, in the last year, this is how much you've made. And that data combined with the rating, because now we're saying Damali on average is making 750,000 a month, and there are 56 people that are saying Damali is high level of integrity, very professional, and all of those things. Then you begin to form this picture of someone who, I think I can lend Damali 300,000. And that's what we really want to do.
So if I go to Stanbic, maybe Stanbic will be like, okay, well, let me see your Flip profile. How much money have you been making? Maybe I can extend.
And they can ask Flip to write, right?
Actually, yeah.
Because even if you, Damali, as an accountant, you meticulously keep your books. in your book, and then you go to Stanbic and say, this is how much I've been.
They won't believe you.
No,
we don't know.
They usually want an institution.
Yes, someone independent.
Yes.
To
say, you know what?
Yes,
we know Damali. This is and this is why they ask your employer to write a letter, and ask for pay slips and that kind of stuff.
So
we are providing all of that.
Could be now doing that bit.
We'll basically provide all of that information, and if a bank or another financial institution requests for that information, then, because again, we have to get your consent to release that information.
Okay. So I like that you're targeting this so-called unemployment issue. And I know that a lot of young people, whilst they don't have formal employment, they're actually doing work. And I see this, that it's a big opportunity for young people to therefore get onto Flip, to be able to actually earn more money, to have this even where they build their profile, to get jobs that normally they don't get because people don't know them.
Yeah.
This, I know a guy, the guy doesn't know you, so you'll never get the call.
Yeah.
And yet you're doing a fantastic service. Yeah. So if hypothetically you got 100 young people today, join Flip, are you able to get them jobs?
The jobs, actually, interestingly, we've opened up some new industries, like the solar industry. And the solar industry has overwhelmed us. We can't find enough talent.
Really?
To place in the solar industry. They're looking for salespeople. These are people who are coming and saying, I need 50 salespeople.
50 salespeople?
50 salespeople. I need them. And I need them next month.
You don't have enough of them on those?
There's just not enough, coming through.
Yeah.
And then there are solar technicians, there are all sorts of roles. So yes, we absolutely can place these people. We are aggressively going out and letting hiring entities, as we say on the Flip, in our organization.
So these are people who are looking for services.
People who are looking for talent, right? I need an accountant, I need, all of that kind of stuff. We're constantly going and saying, hey, this is a trusted space where you can find someone and you can transparently see who you're hiring and you know what's coming, right? So we are encouraging them to post as much work as possible. Okay. But the challenge that we're actually facing on the other side is really the preparedness of young people to be in the world of work, right? Okay. Those things that we rate you on, it's not easy to come across people who have them. Right? So that we've struggled in that space, getting people who are professional. We've had, our fair share of bad experiences, right? And
the few young people who are professional and have integrity, in a way, they will be on top of the cream.
Those are going to be.
If I'm one of those young people who is efficient, and I get into your platform, I'll be highly sought after.
Absolutely. You'll be highly sought after. You're in this one, another one is coming, that one, another one's coming. We're constantly saying, because, we've, and sometimes I don't know what it is, but, you get a lot of young people who just don't show up. They just don't show up. And so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, in terms of preparing young people, getting them to change their mindset. And I guess it's probably a question of hope. Yeah. Okay. Probably people have lost hope.
They've lost hope in things.
They've been out of work in a long time, right? So.
Okay. Which are the most highly sought after talent sectors?
So we've seen a huge a surge in sales. I think as the economy is opening, you see a huge surge in sales. We've actually had quite a number of people coming to us looking for auditors and accountants.
Yay.
And again, people need to get their books done, have their ducks in line, whether you're raising money or you want to just, to be compliant. There's a lot of graphics design, and business image, design. There's a lot of project management work as well. I have an event, and I need someone to manage it. So then we've had this interesting, roles, around, it's sort of like managing and coordination, right? I need a store manager on the construction side. It's not a specific qualification, which I think is a very good opportunity and for a segment I'm excited about, which is university students, right? Because if you catch them young, then by the time they're coming out, they're professional, quality of time, and that kind of thing. And I know two things about university students. We used to have a lot of time. We needed money, right?
Okay.
And so on that day when you have one lecture or two lectures,
you can go
come back with 50,000 shillings made.
Wow.
Right? Because someone needed a bunch of documents to be typed out,
and you went, did the typing?
Yeah.
You got your cash?
But they're going to say, you're professional.
Yeah.
You begin to build that.
You're timely. You know.
Yeah.
So by the time in fact you leave, you could actually have jobs. You would have a job.
Everyone is looking for someone who is those 4 things.
Okay. Unfortunately, we come to the end of our time. I thought it means up. Do you have any last words?
I would guess the last word would be that we need to rethink this whole question of employment, and we actually need to look at ourselves, you know, because on a daily basis, not daily, but very often, I'm sure you hire people. As an individual, I'm not talking about Ideation Corner or, you know, but as an individual, you're hiring someone to do something for you, but you're not looking at it as, I need this thing done, you know, it's an expense, but you're actually hiring someone.
I need a plumber.
So if we change that and start being professional about it and put a contract behind it, you know, and hold people accountable to it, we help them raise their standards, but we also help move young people out of this tub of unemployment.
Yeah, it also helped me because you know I get a plumber, sometimes I get an electrician, sometimes I get a mechanic. If I'm getting all those people through that, I even see where I spend my money.
You can see where
at the end of the year,
because again you have an e-wallet, and it will tell you where you've been spending your money. So please post those jobs on the Flip platform, and we'll basically make sure that you get the right person.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. There you had it. Get onto Flip Africa to either post jobs that you want people to fulfill, or if you're a young person, definitely get onto Flip Africa because you may get roles, you may get employment, you may get work done actually. So otherwise, subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for listening.